So Uzumaki is probably Junji Ito's most famous work next to My Girl Tomie, Ramina, and The Enigma of Amigara Fault, the Holes one, and it recently received an animated adaptation after quite a long time in development hell. You've heard the issues of this adaptation from other sources by this point. I'm not really going to be reiterating them here, since I feel like the crew did the best that they could considering the massive amounts of problems that faced that production. So all I'll really say is that it's probably still the best Junji Ito adaptation. Seriously, remember that collection? And if you like the first episode, then I'd recommend reading Uzumaki and Tomie, along with checking out the anime version of Akinohana if you really vibed with the rotoscoping. This video is not a critique of the anime, and instead it's just going to be a short analysis of the themes present in the original story. As such, this video will contain full spoilers for Uzumaki. As far as content warnings, Ito tends to handle some of the most extreme subject matter you can think of, which includes the obvious of body horror, but also misogyny, self-harm, suicide, obsession, and parental abuse. It's a lot, and if it's too much for you, then you should really read Yon and Mew as a palate cleanser. That's about Ito's cats and is a comedy. Now, to discuss Uzumaki, I think it's best to start with its ending, seeing as how it loops directly into its beginning. With the entire town infected with spirals and almost everyone being transformed or dead, Kirie falls down the spiral staircase at the center of town in pursuit of her boyfriend, Shuichi. She sees the ruins built underneath her town, and how it's constructed from the bodies of the people who live there, including her parents. Unable to dwell, she finds Shuichi, and after briefly ruminating on the who and why of it all, they accept they won't be able to leave and embrace. Their eyes close for eternity and the curse broken the same time it began, with Kirie narrating how the events that have happened will happen over and over again as a new town is built amidst the ruins of the old one. Now, folks tend to hate this ending because it doesn't resolve any of the mysteries and everyone presumably dies, but I personally find it to be beautiful and a fitting end to the story. In an interview from 2006, Ito himself said he didn't know what spirals as a cultural concept represented, but feels it represents infinity, and notes that he was influenced by the works of Lovecraft. Often, folks respond emotionally and subconsciously when it comes to cosmic horror/surrealist works, but don't really have the language in order to describe what they're feeling since there's no logical reason as to why things are happening. The logical is deliberately discarded in order to ruminate on themes that can be difficult to talk about. Let's take Silent Hill 2 as an example. While there are allusions to why the town is manifesting the subjective fears and thoughts of the people who enter it, mainly a reference to old gods, there is no logical mechanism as to why it's happening at all, since obviously this kind of thing doesn't happen in real life. We can apply this pretty directly to Uzumaki, starting with Shuichi's father. While there is no logical reason as to why he is obsessed with spirals, his behavior is not something that out of the ordinary when it comes to fathers addicted to a particular vice, be that gambling, drugs, and so on. He stops going to work and yells and screams at his family when they don't continually placate his obsession, how it in particular makes him feel over the needs of the family, to the point he becomes physically violent towards his wife when she tries to stop the madness. After he dies trying to replicate the spiral of his body, she develops an extreme phobia of spirals and specifically thought of him coming for her and harming her in some manner, turning to more and more aggressive self-harm until she takes an irreversible action which makes the spiral impossible to escape until she dies. So yeah, Shuichi's got it fucking rough. With these two stories, we not only have an understanding of why he hates the town so much and wants to leave, but also how the spirals are being used to discuss topics through loose metaphor. It's very possible that Shuichi's father was abusive before his obsession, and the outlet of it was what caused him to spiral downwards, and Shuichi's mother as a result spiraled downwards from how emotionally traumatizing being with him was. For Kirie, the mundanities of the town is something that she's used to, which gives her a very grounding presence, and Shuichi, who is able to leave every now and again for school, has knowledge of how things could be different, and despite tragedy, is able to see what others cannot and avoid harm coming to him and his girlfriend. All of the supposed one-off stories in the manga follow this trend, in which the surface of body horror is being used to critique social conditions and obsession. Azami's scar gives her the belief that she is able to have any boy she wants, but when Shuichi rejects her, she becomes obsessed with getting him. She has no care for how Shuichi feels, who again just lost both his parents and has a literal girlfriend. All she cares about is how she is defined by the gaze of others and resorts to more and more extreme measures to get what she wants. This is similar to themes Ito explored in Tomie, where the main character isn't a perfect victim and is obsessed with how she is perceived by other people over her beauty, which leads to cyclical violence where she is inevitably killed by the men she tries to control, and regenerates to attempt to control them again. With both characters, the duality of both victim and monster is contrasted with a society that conditions women to embodying two different conflicting ideals, which both fail to capture the real person. Azami is not someone who is inherently able to attract men with a scar. She associates a small defect with something powerful and unique about herself, reified by rumors spread by the people around her until it becomes literally true and kills her. You can see this type of contrast in quite a lot of media, generally by splitting a single woman in two either literally or metaphorically to embody one or both of these traits. Think Maria and Mary, the two sides of Laura Palmer, Addie and her Tethered, etc. And it's reflective of the real ways in which women are treated in real life, since all media is a reflection of reality. Real. Folks will often misinterpret these two sides to be some literal biological basis inherent to women, which goes back to Freud, who was so sexist he thought women were dark continents. But none of this is inherent to a person, and is all things that are socially conditioned. Stuff like this is the reason a lot of marginalized folks are drawn to various forms of horror, be that cosmic, body, whatever, because it provides tools to help conceptualize the ways in which they feel in circumstances where there is no outlet. It's why people still read Lovecraft despite how horrifically racist he was. For me personally, I find the first chapter of Uzumaki very relatable because I saw this type of spiral with my father, who until his death was so focused on how to make himself feel better that he did everything he could in service to that obsession. That's obviously pretty sad, but it's something I've come to terms with through developing an understanding of why it happened. At the center of Uzumaki is Shuichi and Kirie. What's interesting progressing through the chapters is how they both sustain each other through their mutual love and respect, which allows them to fight the influence of the spirals longer than anyone else. It's honestly genuinely heartwarming how much they have each other's backs, how much they're willing to go through to make sure each other are safe, despite a town and a society which more often than not is determined to hurt them more than help. It becomes so much easier to blame the obvious, the curse of the spirals and how they manifest, and not the cruelty and abuse that leads to them, and how that cruelty and abuse curses new generations into repeating it over and over again. One of the most beautiful parts of the manga, which was sadly not adapted for the anime, is this small, quiet moment of chapter 12, where Shuichi and Kirie spend a little time at the beach. In spite of the horrors of the town and how much he's suffered, Shuichi is still there for Kirie time and again, and doesn't let his trauma stop himself from giving love to another person. And Kirie in turn is grateful to be there with him and is glad they're both alive. Despite being known as the body horror guy, I find a lot of Ito's works to be very optimistic in their looks at human nature. This man stared into the abyss, and instead of destroying him, he just went home and took care of his cats. Because ultimately, part of accepting the inevitability of death and the horrors of society is that you're only going to be alive once, so you may as well find what connection and happiness you can while you're able to. Try and live a fulfilling life and be seen by other people who feel similar as you, and try to prevent what harm you can. I interpret the ending of Uzumaki to be a victory, not a tragedy, because in the face of infinity and uncontrollable forces, Shuichi and Kirie are able to be there for each other until the very end, which completely shifts the story textually and metatextually from being about a curse which destroys a town for eternity, instead how the ability to be equal with another person ends a curse the same moment it began, the endless frozen moment in each other's arms. Thank you for watching this video. This is a shorter one while I plug away at a larger project of mine which will be out next month. Thank you also to my patrons for their support. If you would like to support me financially, a link to my Patreon is in the description, and you can like, comment, subscribe, and so on if you wish.